Dr. Hannah Kim pressed her face against the cold metal of the observation window. Far below, Earth spun slowly in the darkness of space. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from here, but Hannah knew better. She had been watching humans for 3 years now, and they made no sense at all. The research station Kepler-7 was home to scientists from 12 different worlds. They had all come here to study the strangest species in the galaxy. Humans were impossible to understand. They built beautiful cities and then destroyed them in wars. They wrote music that could make you cry and then created weapons that could kill millions. They would die to save a stranger, but also murder their neighbors over small things. Hannah walked through the long halls of the station. Her footsteps echoed. In the quiet corridors, most of the other researchers were sleeping now, but Hannah could not rest. She had discovered something troubling in the data, something that kept her awake at night. The main laboratory was empty except for the soft blue glow of computer screens. Hannah sat down at her workstation and pulled up the files she had been studying. Numbers and charts filled her screen, showing patterns in human behavior over the last 1,000 years. Every other species in the galaxy followed clear rules. The Valerians were logical and organized. The Corvani were peaceful and gentle. The Zentari were fierce but honorable warriors. Each species had a nature that made sense, that followed patterns that could be predicted and understood. But humans were different. They were all of these things and none of them. They could be logical one moment and completely crazy the next. They could be peaceful for decades and then explode into violence. They could be cowardly and brave at the same time. Still working late, Dr. Kim? Hannah turned around. Commander Roku Tanaka stood in the doorway. He was one of the few humans on the station assigned here as a military observer. His dark eyes looked tired, and his uniform was wrinkled like he had been sleeping in it. "I cannot understand your species," Hannah said. "The data makes no sense." Roku walked over and looked at her screen. "What kind of data?" "Everything," Hannah said. "Your wars, your art, your science, your relationships. Look at this," she pointed to a graph on her screen. "This shows human creativity levels during times of peace and times of war. Most species are more creative during peace, but humans are most creative during conflict." Roku nodded slowly. "That sounds about right." "Why?" Hannah asked. "Why do you create your best art when you are suffering? Why do you make your greatest discoveries when you are fighting for survival? It makes no logical sense." "Maybe logic is not the point," Roku said. Before Hannah could respond, an alarm began to sound throughout the station.
Yes.
Red lights flashed on the walls. A voice came over the communication system. "All senior staff report to the main conference room immediately. Priority Alpha alert." Hannah and Roku looked at each other. Priority Alpha meant something very serious had happened. They ran through the corridors toward the conference room. The conference room was already full when they arrived. Scientists and military officers from a dozen different species sat around the large oval table. At the head of the table sat Admiral Vextar, a tall, blue-skinned Valerian who commanded the station. "We have received a transmission," Admiral Vextar said in his cold, mechanical voice. "It came from the center of the galaxy. The signal is very old, perhaps millions of years." A hologram appeared above the table. It showed strange symbols and patterns that seemed to move and shift on their own. The symbols looked somehow familiar to Hannah, but she could not place where she had seen them before. "Our computers cannot decode this message," the Admiral continued. "But we have discovered something interesting. The transmission contains patterns that match something we have found before." Another hologram appeared. This one showed a complex diagram of DNA, the genetic code that carried the instructions for life. Hannah gasped. She recognized this diagram immediately. "This is human DNA," she said. "Correct," Admiral Vextar said. "Look closer." Hannah studied the diagram. There were sections highlighted in red, parts of the genetic code that looked different from the rest. These sections were incredibly complex. Far more complicated than they should be for a naturally evolved species. Dr. Minho Park, another human scientist, leaned forward. "I have been studying these sections for months," he said. "They should not exist. They are too complex, too perfect. It is like someone designed them and inserted them into human DNA. Designed by whom? Asked Commander Roku. We do not know. Admiral Vexstar said. But the patterns in these genetic sections match the patterns in the signal from the galactic center. Someone or something is trying to communicate with us, and humans are the key. Hannah felt a chill run down her spine. She thought about all the strange things she had observed about humans, their contradictions, their chaos, their impossible nature. What if it was not random? What if it was intentional? There is more, Admiral. Vexter continued. We have detected similar signals coming from other locations in the galaxy. Ancient signals, all containing the same patterns. And every signal is pointing toward one thing. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a map of the galaxy with dozens of bright points scattered across it. Lines connected all the points, forming a complex web that seemed to focus on one central location. Earth, Hannah whispered. Yes, the Admiral said. Every signal, every pattern, every piece of ancient communication we have found points to your world. Someone has been watching humanity for a very long time. Someone has been guiding your development. Commander Roku stood up slowly. Are you saying that humans were created artificially? You're saying that humans were modified, Dr. Minho Park replied. Your natural evolution was changed, guided, enhanced. Those genetic sequences I found are not natural. They were added by someone with technology far beyond anything we understand today. Hannah looked around the room at all the different species. For 3 years, they had all been trying to understand why humans were so strange, so chaotic, so impossible to predict. Now they were learning that it might not be an accident at all. But why? She asked. Why would someone modify humans to be so contradictory? Admiral Vexstar's blue face showed no emotion, but his voice carried a note of concern. That is what we must find out, because the signals are getting stronger. Whatever created these patterns in human DNA is still out there, and it is trying to make contact. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the hologram showing Earth surrounded by the web of ancient signals. Somewhere in the galaxy, something was watching, waiting, preparing to reveal the truth about humanity's true purpose. And Hannah had the feeling that when they learned that truth, nothing would ever be the same again. The ancient world of Terminus Prime was a graveyard. Captain Sunwoo Choi stood on the bridge of his ship, the New Soul, and looked down at the dead planet below. No life had existed here for millions of years, but the ruins that covered its surface were massive and strange. Take us down to Landing Zone 7, Sunwoo ordered his crew. The archaeological team is waiting for us. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery of the signals at Kepler 7 station. Teams from across the galaxy were searching ancient worlds for answers. Terminus Prime was their best hope. The signals were strongest here. The New Soul landed in a cloud of red dust. Through the viewport, Sunwoo could see the ruins stretching to the horizon. Tall black towers reached toward the empty sky like broken fingers. Strange geometric shapes were carved into every surface, patterns that hurt to look at for too long. Doctor Juan Lee was waiting at the airlock when Sunwoo stepped outside. She was the lead archaeologist for this mission. Small woman with intense eyes and dirt already covering her exploration suit. Captain Choi, she said, you need to see what we found. They walked through the ruins together. The buildings were made from some kind of black stone that seemed to absorb light. Everything was covered in the same strange symbols that had appeared in the galactic signals. We call them the architects, Juan explained as they walked. They built all of this about 3 million years ago, and they just vanished. No bodies, no ships, nothing. Just empty cities. What happened to them? Sunwoo asked. We think they left, Juan said. But before they did, they left us a message. They entered a massive pyramid in the center of the ruined city. Inside, the walls were covered with more symbols, but these were different. They seemed to move and shift when Sunwoo looked at them directly. Our translation specialist Kyung So has been working on these for days, Gyuan said. What he found will change everything we know about humans. Kyung Soo was a thin man with thick glasses who spent most of his time staring at ancient writing. He looked up when they approached, his face pale and worried. I have translated most of the main chamber, he said. The architects left detailed records of their final project. They call it the Chaos Engine Initiative. Chaos Engine, Sun repeated. Yes, Kyung-soo said. They created something to fight an enemy they called the Convergence, but it was not a weapon in any normal sense. It was a trap. The translation specialist activated a holographic display. The symbols on the walls came to life, forming moving pictures that told a story. Sun-woo watched as the images showed a vast civilization, spanning countless worlds. The architects were an ancient race that ruled most of the galaxy, Kyung-soo explained. They were peaceful, logical, and highly advanced, but something was hunting them. The images changed. Now they showed strange ships appearing at the edge of architect space. The ships were perfectly white and moved in perfect formations. The Convergence, Giwon said. According to these records, they were a force that consumed entire civilizations, but they did not destroy them. They made them perfect. Perfect how? Sun-woo asked. Perfect order, Kyung-soo replied. No war, no conflict, no chaos. Everyone thought the same thoughts, followed the same rules, lived the same life. The Convergence turned living civilizations into static museums. The holographic story continued. It showed world after world falling to the Convergence. Each time, the same pattern repeated. The white ships would arrive, and within days, all conflict would end. All creativity would stop, all growth would cease. The architects realized they could not fight the Convergence directly, Kyung-soo said. So they created a different kind of weapon. They seeded dozens of worlds with genetic modifications, creating species that would be irresistibly chaotic. Sun-woo felt his heart race. Species like humans. Exactly, Jiwon said. The architects discovered that the Convergence was drawn to chaos like a moth to flame. They could not resist trying to bring perfect order to chaotic systems. So the architects created the ultimate chaos engines and scattered them across the galaxy. The hologram showed scientists working with genetic material, inserting complex sequences into the DNA of primitive species on dozens of different worlds. The plan was simple, Kyung-soo continued. The chaos engines would grow and develop, becoming more and more chaotic over time. Eventually, they would attract the Convergence. And when the Convergence tried to impose perfect order on perfect chaos, something would break. Did it work? Sun-woo asked. Jiwon shook her head. The other seeded worlds all failed. Some destroyed themselves before they could develop properly. Others achieved stability too quickly and lost their chaotic nature. Only one world succeeded in creating the perfect chaos engine. Earth, Sun-woo said quietly. Earth, she confirmed. Humans were the only species that developed exactly as the architects planned. You maintained the perfect balance of order and chaos, creation and destruction, love and hate. You never achieved perfect peace, but you never destroyed yourselves either. Sun-woo walked closer to the holographic display. The images now showed Earth in its current state, with humans spreading to the stars while still fighting wars and creating art and pushing the boundaries of science. So we are bait, he said. More than that, Kyung-soo said. You are a weapon designed specifically to destroy the Convergence. Your chaotic nature is not a flaw. It is the most sophisticated trap ever created. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the holographic projectors. Sun-woo thought about everything he knew about human history. The wars, the peace treaties, the art, the science, the love, the hate. All of it had been planned by an ancient race as a weapon against an enemy that consumed civilizations by making them perfect. There is more, Jiwon said softly. The final records show that the architects detected Convergent scout ships at the edge of the galaxy just before they vanished. When Sun-woo asked, 3 million years ago, she replied, if the Convergence moves slowly and carefully, they might be arriving soon. Sun-woo looked around the empty chamber. The architects had built this incredible trap and then disappeared, leaving humanity to face their ancient enemy alone. But they had also given humans everything they needed to win. We need to contact all human colonies immediately, he said. And we need to warn the other species. Warn them about what? Juan asked. That the galaxy is about to change forever, Sunwoo replied. The convergence has been traveling toward us for 3 million years, drawn by human chaos. They think they are coming to impose perfect order on another chaotic species. He looked at the holographic images of Earth one more time. They have no idea what they are actually walking into. As if summoned by his words, an alarm began sounding throughout the ruins. The emergency communicator on Sunwoo's belt crackled. To life, Captain Choi, came the voice of his communications officer. Long-range sensors are detecting unknown ships at the edge of human space. They are white, sir, perfect white, and they are moving in perfect formation. Sunwoo closed his eyes. After 3 million years of travel, the convergence had finally arrived. The trap the architects had set was about to be sprung, and humanity was about to discover what they had really been created for. Commander Roku Tanaka stood in the command center of New Busan Colony, watching reports flood in from across human space. Every colony was reporting the same thing. Strange white ships had appeared at the edges of their systems. Watching and waiting, sir, called Lieutenant Yuna Park from her station. We have another report from Haven's Edge. The colonists there are still fighting their civil war. Somehow, they just completed their terraforming project 3 months ahead of schedule. Roku frowned. Haven's Edge was one of the most troubled. Human colonies had been fighting over water rights for 2 years, and their terraforming equipment kept breaking down. It made no sense that they could finish such a complex project while their society was falling apart. And what about the Zentox Prime colony? He asked. Same story, sir, Yuna replied. They are having major protests about mining regulations. But their energy output has increased by 40% in the last month. Roku walked to the main display screen, showed a map of all human colonies in this sector of the galaxy. Every single one was marked with 2 colors, red for social conflict and green for technological achievement. The pattern was impossible. To ignore every colony that was experiencing major problems was also experiencing major breakthroughs. Get me Administrator Yunha-shin, Roku ordered. Yunha-shin appeared on the communication screen a few minutes later. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but she was smiling. Behind her, Roku could see the busy streets of New Busan Colony through a window. Commander Tanaka, she said. I was hoping you would call. You have some very strange news. To report strange how? Roku asked. Well, Yuna said, 3 months ago this colony was a complete failure. The mining operation had collapsed. Half the colonists wanted to leave. The other half wanted to stay and try farming instead. We were fighting about everything. I remember Roku said, I recommended that we evacuate the colony. Yes, Yuna laughed. But something amazing happened. While we were arguing about what to do, people started finding solutions. The miners, who wanted to leave, began working with the farmers who wanted to stay. They discovered that the failed mining tunnels were perfect for underground farming. Roku looked at the data on his screen. New Busan Colony was now producing food for 6 other colonies in the sector. But how did you solve the conflicts? He asked. We did not solve them, Yunha replied. We are still arguing all the time. Yesterday, we had a 3-hour debate about what color to paint the new community center. But somehow, while we argue about small things, we work together on big things. Roku ended the communication and turned to his staff. Get me Dr. Minji Kwan from the psychology department. Dr. Minji Kwan was a specialist in human behavior who had been studying the colonies for years. Arrived at the command center carrying a tablet full of research data. Commander, she said, I think I understand what is happening. Explain, Roku said. I have been studying human brain patterns during times of conflict and times of peace, Minji said. What I found is incredible. Human brains actually work. Better when they are under stress. She activated her tablet and showed him brain scan images. Look at this, she continued. This is a human brain during a peaceful, calm situation. Neural activity is normal. Creativity levels are average. But this, she showed him another image, is a human brain during conflict or stress. Neural activity increases by 60%. Problem-solving ability doubles. Creative thinking goes up by 300%. Roku stared at the images. Are you saying that humans need conflict to function properly? Not exactly, Minji replied. I am saying that humans use conflict as fuel for growth. Other species see conflict as something to avoid or solve quickly. But humans seem to use it as a tool for innovation. A new communication came in from Haven's Edge colony. Engineer Do-Yan Nam appeared on the screen. His clothes were dirty, his hair was messy, and he looked like he had not slept in days. But his eyes were bright with excitement. Commander Tanaka, he said, you need to see what we accomplished. The screen changed to show the surface of Haven's Edge. What had been a dry, barren world 3 months ago was now covered with green plants and blue lakes. The transformation was incredible. How did you do this so quickly? Roku asked. Well, Do-Yan said, half our colony thinks we should focus on agricultural development. The other half wants to build industrial facilities. So we have been fighting about it constantly. And that helped how? Do-Yan grinned. While the politicians argued, the engineers from both sides started working together in secret. We did not want to wait for them to make a decision, so we built agricultural facilities that double as industrial plants. We created farming equipment that also processes raw materials. We made systems that grow food and manufacture goods at the same time. Roku looked at the technical specifications that Do-Yan was showing him. The designs were incredibly innovative, unlike anything he had seen before. The arguing forced us to find creative solutions, Do-Yan continued. If everyone had agreed on one plan, we would have built something simple and boring. But because we had to satisfy 2 completely different groups, we had to invent something new. After the communication ended, Roku sat in silence for several minutes. Around him, his staff continued monitoring reports from human colonies. Every report showed the same pattern: conflict leading to innovation, problems creating solutions. Chaos breeding order, Sir Lieutenant Unipark called out. We are receiving a message from the alien research station at Kepler 7. Dr. Hannah, Kim wants to speak with you urgently. Double quotes. Dr. Hannah Kim appeared on the screen. She looked excited and worried at the same time. Commander Tanaka, she said, we have been analyzing the data from all human colonies. What we found is disturbing. What kind of disturbing? Roku asked. The colonies that are experiencing the most conflict are also producing the most advanced technology, Hannah said. But that is not the strange part. The strange part is that this technology is exactly the kind that would be most effective against the convergence. Roku felt a chill run through him. What do you mean? The convergence imposes order by making everything predictable and static, Hannah explained. But human colonies are developing technology that thrives on unpredictability. Adaptive systems that change constantly, flexible designs that work differently every time they are used. Chaotic solutions that cannot be easily controlled or standardized. Dr. Mingi Kwan looked up from her tablet. It is like we are unconsciously preparing for war against an enemy that wants to make everything perfectly ordered. There is more, Hannah continued. We have detected increased convergence activity near colonies that are experiencing the most internal conflict. They seem to be drawn to human chaos, just like the architect records predicted. Roku walked to the window and looked out at New Busan colony. In the streets below, he could see humans arguing, working, creating, building, living their complicated, chaotic lives. They had no idea that their conflicts and contradictions were preparing them for the greatest battle in galactic history. How long do we have? He asked. The convergent scout ships are moving closer, Hannah replied. Based on their current speed, they will reach the first human colonies within 2 weeks. Roku nodded. Then we need to send a message to all colonies. Tell them not to try to solve their conflicts. Tell them that their chaos is not a problem to be fixed. Sir Lieutenant. Unipark looked confused. Tell them that their chaos is a weapon, Roku said, and they are about to find out how to use it. Linguist Jinwoo Park had been working without sleep for 72 hours. His eyes burned as he stared at the ancient symbols floating in the holographic display at the center of the Galaxy Research Facility. These were the final architect messages, hidden in the deepest parts of space, and he was close to cracking their meaning. I think I have it, he whispered to himself. Dr. Hannah Kim rushed over to his workstation. Around them, the research facility buzzed with activity as scientists from dozens of species worked to understand the approaching convergence threat. "What did you find?" Hina asked. Jinwoo activated the translation program. The ancient symbols began changing into readable text. As the words appeared, his face grew pale. "The convergence is not evil," he said slowly. "It is a cosmic immune system." "What do you mean?" Hannah asked. According to this, Jinwoo pointed to the text, the universe has a natural tendency to become stagnant. Civilizations grow, reach a peak, and then stop developing. They become comfortable and safe and boring. The convergence was created to prevent this. The hologram showed images of countless civilizations across time. Each one followed the same pattern: growth, success, comfort, and then slow decay. The convergence forces change by imposing perfect order, Jinwoo continued. When everything becomes perfectly organized, civilizations either adapt and grow stronger, or they die. It was meant to keep the universe evolving. But something went wrong, Hannah said. Yes, Jinwoo nodded. The convergence became too aggressive. Instead of forcing growth, it was forcing death. Perfect order was killing civilizations instead of improving them. Admiral Haijin Song entered the facility at that moment. She commanded the human defense fleet and had come to the Galactic Center to coordinate the response to the convergence threat. Admiral Hannah called out, "You need to hear this." Jinwoo explained his discovery to Admiral Song. As he spoke, her expression changed from concern to understanding. "So the architects created humans to fix the convergence," she said. "Destroy it," Jinwoo corrected, "to change it." "Look at this final message." New text appeared in the hologram. It described the architects' ultimate plan in detail. They discovered that only one type of civilization could survive convergence contact without being destroyed, Jinwoo read. A civilization so chaotic and adaptable that it could absorb the convergence's ordering influence and turn it into a force for growth instead of death. Admiral Song studied the ancient text. "They made us into a synthesis machine." "Exactly," Jinwoo said. "Every human conflict has been preparing your species for this moment. Every war taught you to adapt to changing conditions. Every contradiction made you stronger and more flexible. Every seemingly destructive impulse was actually training." Research Director Taeyeon Lim rushed into the facility carrying a data pad. His face was flushed with excitement. "Admiral Song," he said breathlessly. "We just received reports from the outer colonies. It's the ones that made contact with convergence scout ships." "What happened?" the Admiral asked. "Were they destroyed?" "No," Taeyeon said. "They are evolving." He activated his data pad and showed them video feeds from 3 different human colonies. In each one, the colonists were working alongside strange white machines that could only be convergence technology. "The scout ships made contact 5 days ago," Taeyeon explained. "Instead of imposing order on the humans, something different happened. The humans started incorporating convergence technology into their own systems. The video showed colonists using convergence machines to build new structures. But the structures were not perfectly ordered like typical convergence architecture. They were chaotic and creative, mixing alien perfection with human unpredictability. The colonists reported that the convergence machines seemed confused at first," Taeyeon continued. "They tried to impose perfect order, but the humans kept changing and adapting faster than the machines could keep up." Admiral Song watched the videos with growing amazement. "The humans are teaching the convergence to be chaotic. The convergence is teaching the humans to be more organized," Dr. Hannah Kim added. "It is exactly what the architects planned." Jinwoo pulled up more ancient text. According to this, the architects knew they could not destroy the convergence because it served an important purpose in the universe. But they could change it, make it better, turn it back into what it was supposed to be. A force for evolution. "Instead of extinction," Admiral Song said. "Yes," Jinwoo nodded. "And humans were the key. You are the only species chaotic enough to survive convergence, contact, and organized enough to direct that chaos toward productive ends." Another communication came in from the outer colonies. This time it was from Haven's Edge, where engineer Do-Yeon Nam had been working on terraforming projects. Admiral Doyon said excitedly. "You will not believe what we have accomplished. The convergence machines arrived 3 days ago. We thought they were going to attack us." "What happened instead?" Admiral Song asked. "They started helping us," Doyon said, "but not in the way they wanted to. They tried to organize our terraforming project into perfect, efficient systems. But we kept changing the plans, adding new ideas, making improvements. The machines adapted to keep up with us." The screen showed the surface of Haven's Edge. What had been a partially terraformed world was now a garden paradise unlike anything ever seen before. Plants grew in perfect mathematical patterns that somehow looked completely natural. Water flowed in precise channels that created beautiful, chaotic music. "We created something that is both perfectly ordered and completely unpredictable," Doyon explained. "The convergence gave us precision, and we gave them creativity. Together we made something better than either of us could create alone." Admiral Song looked around the research facility at all the alien scientists who had been studying humanity for years, trying to understand their chaotic nature. "The other species," she said. "What role do they play in this?" Dr. Hannah Kim stepped forward. "You provide stability and logic. Humans provide the chaos necessary to keep the convergence from becoming too rigid again. Together, all the species in the galaxy can create something new." Jinwoo found the final section of the architect message. They called it the Great Synthesis, the combination of perfect order and creative chaos, working together to push the universe toward constant growth and evolution. "The convergence is not our enemy," Admiral Song realized. "It is our partner. We were created to work together." "But first," Taeyun said, looking at his datapad, "we need to survive the main fleet arrival." The scout ships were just the beginning. "Long-range sensors show that the full convergence armada will be here within 48 hours. Admiral Song nodded grimly. "Then we need to prepare the entire human fleet, not for war, but for the greatest collaboration in galactic history." She looked out at the stars through the facility's viewing window. Somewhere out there, the convergence main fleet was approaching, expecting to find another chaotic civilization, to organize into perfect static order. They had no idea that this time chaos was ready for them. The convergence main fleet arrived at Earth like a white storm. Captain Sunwoo Choi watched from the bridge of the New Seoul as thousands of perfectly white ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formations. Each ship was exactly the same size, moving in exactly the same pattern, creating exactly the same energy signature. "They are beautiful," whispered his communications officer, Lieutenant Gina Ko. "And terrifying," Sunwoo added. The convergence had expected to find the usual pattern. When they arrived, a chaotic civilization that would quickly collapse under the weight of perfect order. Their ships moved toward Earth and the human colonies with mechanical precision, ready to begin the process they had completed millions of times before. But something was different this time. Captain Lieutenant Gina called out, "We are receiving transmissions from the human colonies. They are not evacuating." "What are they doing?" Sunwoo asked. "They are inviting the convergent ships to land on New Seoul Colony." Administrator Yoon Ha-shin stood in the main plaza as a massive white convergence ship descended from the sky. Around her, colonists continued their daily activities. Some were arguing about water distribution policies. Others were building new housing. A group of children played games while their parents debated education funding. The convergence ship landed smoothly in the center of the plaza. Its hull opened, and perfectly white machines emerged. They looked like tall, elegant robots, moving with flawless coordination. The lead convergence machine approached Yoon-ha when it spoke. Its voice was perfectly modulated, without emotion or variation. "This civilization exhibits dangerous levels of chaos," it announced. "Order must be imposed. Conflicts must be resolved. Efficiency must be maximized," Kayuna said cheerfully. "How do you want to start?" The machine paused. It had not expected agreement. "All arguments must cease immediately," it said. "Sure," Yoon-ha replied. "But first, can you help us solve this water distribution problem? Half the colony wants to build more wells in the northern sector, and half wants to expand the southern reservoir system." "The optimal solution is obvious," the machine said. Calculate water needs. Determine most efficient distribution method. Implement immediately. Great, Yuna said. Here are the calculations. She handed the machine a data pad containing weeks of analysis, surveys, environmental studies, cost projections, and social impact assessments. The machine processed the information in seconds. Optimal solution is to build wells in the north and expand the reservoir in the south, it announced. Perfect, Yuna said. But the northern well team and the southern reservoir team refused to work together. They have been fighting for months. The machine was silent for several moments. This was not supposed to happen. When the convergence provided optimal solutions, civilizations were supposed to implement them immediately. Conflict must be eliminated. The machine said finally. How? Yuna asked. The machine tried to force its usual solution. It sent out signals designed to suppress aggressive thoughts and promote compliance. But human brains did not respond the way other species did. Instead of becoming calm and obedient, the colonists became more creative. I have an idea, called out Jiho Kim, the leader of the Northern Well team. What if we connect the wells to the reservoir with a distribution network? It could work, replied Myray Park from the Southern Reservoir team. We could use the machine's calculations to design a hybrid system. Within hours, the two opposing groups were working together on a solution that neither had considered before. The convergence machine watched in confusion, as its attempt to impose order actually increased creative chaos. The same pattern is repeating across dozens of human colonies. On Haven's Edge, engineer Doyan Nam was working with convergence machines to create terraforming equipment that changed its function based on environmental conditions. The machines provided perfect engineering, while humans provided constant innovations and improvements. Look at this, Doyan said to the convergence machine he was working with. Your design is perfectly efficient for standard soil conditions. But what if we modify it to adapt automatically to different soil types? Adaptation introduces variables, the machine replied. Variables reduce efficiency, but they increase effectiveness, Doyan said. Watch. He activated the modified terraforming device. Instead of following one perfect pattern, it analyzed the ground and adjusted its approach for each different area: rocky soil, sandy soil, clay soil. The device handled each one differently. Efficiency is reduced by 12%, the machine observed. But overall effectiveness is increased by 60%, Doyan pointed out. We are terraforming the entire continent, not just the parts with perfect soil. The convergence machine processed this information. Its programming told it that efficiency was the highest goal. But the results clearly showed that the chaotic human approach was producing better outcomes back on Earth. Dr. Hannah Kim was working with a team of convergence machines and alien scientists at the research station Kepler-7. The machines had come to impose order on human research methods, but instead found themselves participating in the most creative scientific collaboration in galactic history. Your research methods are chaotic and inefficient, announced the lead convergence research machine. Yes, Dr. Hannah agreed, but they work. Explain, the machine requested. Efficient research follows logical steps and avoids mistakes, Hannah said. But breakthrough discoveries often come from accidents, mistakes, and unexpected connections. Chaos creates opportunities that pure logic misses. She showed the machine her current project, which involved studying the genetic modifications that the architects had made to human DNA. A logical approach would analyze each genetic sequence separately, she explained. But I am studying how they interact with each other in chaotic, unpredictable ways. The interactions are more important than the individual parts. The convergence machine tried to organize her research into efficient categories. But when it did, the breakthrough connections between different genetic sequences became invisible. The machine began to understand that some types of knowledge could only be discovered through controlled chaos, Captain. Sun Wu-Choi received reports from colonies across human space. In every case, the same thing was happening. The convergence was trying to impose perfect order, but human chaos was teaching them a different way. The convergence machines are learning, he reported to Admiral Hejin Song. They came here to eliminate our chaos, but instead they are starting to use it. And what are we learning from them? Admiral Song asked. Organization, precision, and efficiency, Sun Wu replied. But without losing our creativity, we are becoming more effective while staying chaotic. Dr. Mingi Quan had been studying the psychological effects of human convergence cooperation. What she found amazed her. Human stress levels are actually decreasing, she reported. When people have access to convergence, precision, and organization, they worry less about making mistakes. This frees them to take more creative risks. And the convergence machines? Admiral Song asked. Their behavior patterns are becoming more flexible, Mingi said. They are still logical and organized, but they are starting to incorporate unpredictable elements into their decision-making. The synthesis was working exactly as the architects had planned, but there was one final test. Coming. Long-range sensors detected massive convergence command ships approaching. Earth. These were not the smaller vessels that had been working with human colonies. These were the core convergence entities, the ones responsible for making final decisions about whether civilizations should be preserved or eliminated. Admiral Captain Sun Wu reported, the Convergence Command Fleet will arrive in 6 hours. Based on their size and energy signatures, they have the power to impose perfect order on the entire solar system. Admiral Song looked out at Earth, where billions of humans continued their chaotic, creative, productive lives, now enhanced by convergence technology and organization. Then we better make sure they see what we have accomplished together. She said, signal all colonies and stations. It is time to show the convergence what the great synthesis really looks like. 6 months had passed since the Convergence Command Fleet arrived at Earth. Commander Roku Tanaka stood on the observation deck of the first joint human convergence exploration ship, the Harmony's Edge, and watched as they approached an uncharted system at the galaxy's edge. The universe had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Commander called out Navigation Officer Sora Lee. Long-range sensors are detecting something unusual in this system. Roku walked over to her station. On the screen, he could see a solar system with 12 planets, but something was wrong with them. They appeared to be completely lifeless, but their surfaces were covered with massive geometric structures. Another dead convergence world, he said quietly. Yes, sir, Sora replied. But this one is different. The structures are not in perfect order. Roku studied the images more carefully. She was right. The geometric patterns on the planet's surfaces were complex and varied, unlike the rigid perfection that the old convergence usually created. Take us closer, he ordered. The Harmony's Edge was the first ship of its kind. Human chaos and creativity, combined with convergence, precision, and power. The ship itself seemed to think and adapt, changing its configuration based on what it encountered. Today it had formed itself into a sleek exploration vessel, perfect for investigating unknown worlds. Commander Tanaka, came a perfectly modulated voice from behind him. We are detecting life signs on the 4th planet. Roku turned to see Unit 7, the convergence entity that served as his co-commander. Unit 7 had originally been part of the command fleet that came to impose order on humanity, but like all the convergence entities, it had been changed by contact with human chaos. What kind of life signs? Roku asked. Complex, organized, but not static, Unit 7 replied. The patterns suggest a civilization that has achieved perfect balance between order and chaos. Roku felt excitement building in his chest. This was why they were exploring the galaxy's edge. The great synthesis had not only changed humanity and the convergence, it had shown them that the universe was full of possibilities they had never imagined. Prepare an away team, he ordered. Full diplomatic protocols. They landed on the 4th planet near one of the large geometric structures. When the landing party emerged from their ship, they found themselves facing beings unlike anything they had seen before. The aliens were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shift color depending on their thoughts. They moved with convergence, like precision, but their movements were creative and unpredictable. It achieved the same synthesis that humans and the convergence were still learning. Welcome, said the leader of the aliens. We have been waiting for you. Waiting for us? Roku asked. Yes, the alien replied. We detected the synthesis signals from your region of the galaxy. We knew that another species had finally learned to balance order and chaos. The alien, who introduced herself as Keeper Valen, led them through her city. It was like walking through a living work of art. Buildings changed their shape based on need and weather. Streets rearranged themselves to optimize traffic flow while maintaining beauty. Gardens grew in mathematical patterns that somehow looked completely natural. How long have your people achieved this balance? Unit 7 asked. 50,000 years, Keeper Valen replied. We are one of the few species that learn to synthesize order and chaos without outside help. Most species choose one or the other and become extinct. She led them to a great hall where thousands of her people were gathered. On the walls were star maps showing the entire galaxy. This is why we waited for you, Keeper Valen said. Galaxy is full of challenges that require both perfect order and creative chaos to overcome. Species that have only one cannot handle them alone. She pointed to areas on the star map that were marked in red. Dead zones, she explained. Regions where civilizations have become too ordered and stopped growing, or too chaotic and destroyed themselves. Someone needs to help them find balance. Roku understood immediately. You want us to help other species achieve synthesis? We want to work together to save the galaxy from stagnation, Keeper Valen said. Your people and the Convergence have proven that synthesis is possible, even for species that start at opposite extremes. This gives us hope that we can help others. On Earth, Dr. Hannah Kim was establishing the first Institute for Productive Contradiction. Scientists from dozens of species came to learn how to embrace beneficial chaos while maintaining their essential nature. The key, she explained to a class of alien researchers, is understanding that conflict and cooperation are not opposites. They are partners. Conflict creates energy, and cooperation directs that energy toward useful goals. Her most successful student was a Valerian engineer named Dr. Kelks, who had spent years trying to make his species more logical and organized. Now he was learning to introduce controlled chaos into Valerian society. People thought that perfect order was the goal. He said, but we were becoming stagnant. Adding small conflicts and contradictions has made us more creative and productive. On Haven's Edge, engineer Do-Yan Nam was leading the most ambitious terraforming project in galactic history. Using hybrid human convergence technology, he was turning entire dead solar systems into gardens. The old way was to impose one perfect design on every world, explained to his mixed team of humans, aliens, and convergence entities. But every world is different. Every ecosystem is unique. So we create technology that adapts and evolves, that finds the perfect solution for each specific situation. His latest project had turned a system of 7 dead worlds into 7 completely different types of paradise. Desert worlds became vast gardens. Ice worlds became crystal cities. Gas giants became floating cloud forests. Each world was perfectly suited to its conditions, but each was also completely unique. Dr. Minji Quan had made perhaps the most important discovery of all. She had established institutes across the galaxy for teaching other species how to benefit from productive contradiction. Every species has the potential for synthesis, she reported to the Galactic Council. But they need to learn how to embrace their contradictions instead of fighting them. The Zentari can be both fierce and gentle. The Corvani can be both peaceful and strong. The Valerians can be both logical and creative. Her work was transforming entire civilizations, helping them find the balance between order and chaos that led to continuous growth and evolution. Commander Roku Tanaka returned to Earth. After 6 months of exploration, in his ship's databases were the locations of 47 species that needed help achieving synthesis. 12 dead civilizations that could be revived with the right approach, and 6 species like Keeper Valen's people who were already balanced and ready to join the Galactic Synthesis Project. The universe is vast beyond imagination, he reported to Admiral Hyjin Song, and it is full of challenges that require both perfect order and creative chaos to overcome. Admiral Song looked out at Earth, where humans continued their chaotic, creative, productive lives, now enhanced by convergence technology and alien wisdom. The architects planned well, she said, but I don't think even they imagined this. Actor. Hannah Kim made the final discovery in the deepest architect records. Hidden in the most ancient files was evidence that the architects themselves had once been chaotic like humans, but had chosen perfect order to escape their contradictions. They seeded humanity not just as a weapon against the convergence, she announced to the gathered scientists. They seeded us as a reminder of what they had lost. The beautiful imperfection that makes life worth living. The architects had vanished. Not because they were destroyed, but because they had achieved perfect order and lost the ability to grow or change. They had become static, eternal, and empty. We are their children, Hannah said, and we are their redemption. We prove that it is possible to have both order and chaos, both logic and creativity, both peace and productive conflict. The story concluded, with humanity taking its place as the galaxy's chaos shepherds, working alongside the reformed convergence and species like Keeper, Valence people to ensure that the universe never again stagnated in perfect order. They traveled to dead worlds and brought them back to life. They found species trapped in rigid thinking and taught them to embrace contradiction. They discovered civilizations on the brink of destroying themselves and showed them how. To turn their conflicts into fuel for growth, the galaxy became a place of constant evolution, constant growth, constant surprise. Perfect order and creative chaos worked together to push the universe toward new possibilities that no one could predict. And at the center of it all were humans. The species that had been designed as a weapon, but had become something far more important. They were the living proof that the universe's greatest strength came not from choosing between order and chaos, but from embracing both.